Hi there, everybody. Welcome to The Extra Mile. My name is Gene Gurkoff, and in this episode, we'll be running in Central Park, New York City, with the unshakable Jimmy Choi, who made the leap from being diagnosed with Parkinson's disease to becoming a marathoner and even competing on American Ninja Warrior. Jimmy is an amazing member of the Charity Miles community, a good friend and inspiration to me personally. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to our partners at Prizeo.com. Prizeo offers some really cool sweepstakes for charity. Like right now, they've got a sweepstakes benefiting a number of immigration charities where you can win tickets to join Lin-Manuel Miranda at the opening of Hamilton in Los Angeles. Check them out at Prizeo.com. We are grateful for the opportunity to partner with them, and we're surely grateful to all of you for joining us. Please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review so that we can make it better. If you've got any questions for us, ask them in the reviews, and we'll strive to answer them in future episodes. And of course, tell your friends about the podcast and about Charity Miles so that we can all make a bigger impact together. Now, let's turn up the volume and turn on your Charity Miles, perhaps for the Michael J. Fox Foundation today, and come along for the run or walk with me and Jimmy. Every mile matters. Well, hello, everybody. It is a beautiful, beautiful day in New York City. I am in Central Park. It is partly cloudy, mostly sunny, 60 degrees-ish with a nice little breeze. Perfect day for running. You might hear some cheering, and next to me, that cheering's not really for me. There's a women's half marathon going on, and actually Lauren from Team Charity Miles is running in it. She blew by a while ago. She's flying. But I am here today, a very special guest, the unshakable Jimmy Choi. Jimmy is actually from Chicago and is visiting New York this weekend because we had the Michael J. Fox Foundation's Research Roundtable, which he participated on, and the Team Fox MVP dinner, where he got to introduce Michael J. Fox, which is pretty sweet. And Jimmy is just an amazing guy. Jimmy is 41 years old. He's a husband and a father to two awesome kids. And when he was 27. When he was 27, he was diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's disease. And that changed his life in many ways, which we're going to get into. So first, wherever you are out there, I hope you've got your Charity Miles on and you're out for a walk or a run along with us. It really is a beautiful day here. Jimmy, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me, Gene.
So, let's just start telling people a little bit about you. You're from Chicago?
Yes.
Actually, you've got a tattoo that says you're made in Taiwan.
Yeah, I was born in Taiwan, just like everything in the 70s. Those of you who are old enough to get that joke, share a chuckle with me. So we moved into the United States when I was about 10 years old, and been in the Chicago area ever since.
And so what was life like for you before you had Parkinson's?
I was a technology guy. I graduated, and I was working in, this is the, right around the internet boom. Having a great time working with Microsoft. And life was good. Just gotten married. Playing a lot of golf. I was great at golf. I was a scratch golfer.
Really?
Yeah, I even played in some mini tours at the time.
Did not know that about you.
Yeah.
You're like a savant. Like everything you do.
Well, and see, that's the thing. One of the things that makes me successful is that when I get into something, I get into it. I give it my all.
Yes, you do.
So I was very active. And like I said, we just started a family or just gotten married, and life was good. Life was good until that one day where I was given my diagnosis.
And did you start experiencing symptoms before you got your diagnosis?
So here's the thing. I mean, I was 27 years old. The last thing you think about when you have stiffness or small tremors and these little things, you don't think Parkinson's, right? You think about life. Oh, it's the stress of working with a tech company. It's the stress of working 12, 13-hour days.
Yep. What were you doing for Microsoft?
I was at that time. I was a developer, programmer, writing code, and then you can explain away the stiffness with, I golfed 36 holes yesterday, so I'm stiff today. That makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
So I did nothing about it until one day. My dad always says, "Go get yourself life insurance when you get married and when you start a family," and I did. And it was the life insurance physical nurse that noticed something about me that sort of triggered a whole snowball effect. She was a nurse at a neurologist's office, so she started noticing things about me and started asking me really pointed questions. After we ruled out alcohol and drugs, it was decided that she said, "Hey, you know what? You really should talk to your general practitioner about the stuff that we talked about today." And she wouldn't, of course, give me a diagnosis because she can't.
Right.
But that started the process, and lo and behold, 3 months later, I was given my first diagnosis, and then I got a second opinion a few months later, and the third opinion, and they all said the same thing.
Yeah.
So, instead of...
Do you remember what you were thinking, what that felt like?
Oh, unfortunately, shame was a part of it. Like, it was my fault. Depression, of course, set in. I just didn't know what to do with that because, heck, I'm so young. It just didn't make sense. And the only other person I knew at the time, because he went public, 7 or 8 years before my diagnosis, was Michael J. Fox. And I didn't even tell my parents. I didn't tell my wife.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't tell Cheryl.
I didn't tell Cheryl. I kept the secret for another couple of months, and then it was until the point where I decided that maybe I needed to take some medication. Then I had to tell her. Because,
so you went for how many months?
Total after diagnosis, probably 6 months.
Without doing anything?
Without doing anything.
Were you like in denial, or?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'll tell you what, I was in denial for the next 8 years.
Wow.
So I took the medication because I wanted normalcy back in my life. Because now that you've got, not that I wasn't normal in the sense of my everyday life, but I thought, you know what, maybe if I took these medication, I can be even better at golf. It was very selfish reasons, things that you do, selfish things that you do when you can't handle the news or you can't get a grasp on exactly what's going on, right?
Yep.
So I started taking medication, and that's all I did. I took the same medication. I never went back for it.
Did it help?
It did. Initially, it helped. After the month and a half, almost 2 months of adjustment to side effects, things like that. But then, ultimately, I just went on for the next 8 years. Didn't adjust my dosage. Didn't change my medication. Didn't go back to my neurologist or my movement specialist. Didn't give any feedback. Just completely ignored it. And
Do you know anybody else? Did you reach out to anybody else in the Parkinson's community?
No, not one bit. Again, showing my age, there was no Google at the time. I Yahoo'd everything back then, or asked Jeeves.
Ask Jeeves.
But things I can find on the web were limited at the time.
Yeah.
I found publications that were published by the Michael J. Fox Foundation at the time. But I just glanced over it. I didn't do anything about it.
Yep.
And just tried to continue to live my life.
Were you able to play golf?
I continued to play golf for a couple more years, and then when the fine motor skills started to really diminish, the putting and the chipping went down to hell, and any good golfer will know that once that happens, not that you're a bad golfer, but
I'm a terrible golfer.
Right. But when that happens, then the game becomes less fun, you know,
Yep.
because it takes you 2 shots. The big muscle movements are still there, but it takes you 2 shots to get to the green, but then it takes you 3 putts every other hole.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating.
Yep.
So we really,
How severe were your symptoms? If you describe what some of those symptoms were, and I guess both physical and
so at that
emotional.
time it was mostly stiffness and balance issues. So
Actually, before, maybe some of our listeners don't know what Parkinson's disease is.
yeah.
So can you maybe explain what Parkinson's disease is?
Sure. Parkinson's disease is a degenerative neurological disease where brain cells in the brain that produce dopamine starts to die off. And then as they die off, you produce less and less dopamine. And dopamine is the chemical agent that relays messages from your brain to your muscles.
And so when the brain stops producing dopamine, what starts to happen?
When the brain stops producing dopamine, you start losing control over your muscles. You start losing control over, and it's not just the entire body. It could be targeted to either left side or right side or both, of course. But the muscles stop responding to your moves, and things like that's where stiffness comes to play, because then your arm is stuck or your leg is stuck and you can't move.
You get stiffness. Rigidity.
Yeah, and it really, people ask me, what does it feel like? And it really feels like, if you tied yourself down on one side. Well, for me, it's my right side. So if you tied yourself down on one side, and you're really thirsty, and you try to reach a glass of water, where your arm is tied to your side, and you just can't, because your eyes and your brain is saying you can, but your arm just doesn't move.
Right.
And what's important is that all of your muscles need to move to provide counterbalance, to stay upright.
You start to lose your balance.
You start to lose your balance. And tremors happen, and they're usually resting tremors. And that happens because even though you're relaxed and still, your muscles are still engaged to keep you still. When there's no dopamine there's no message from your brain to tell you to stay still, your muscles are going to want to move on its own. And that's sort of how the tremors happen.
And when you take certain medication, how does the medication impact that? Because the medication helps some symptoms, but also causes other symptoms.
That's right. And it's really sort of lesser of the two evil.
Yep.
You have to decide at certain times of the days what's worse, tremors or side effects like hallucination. Or and yes, you actually have to make that decision every once in a while.
Wow.
Or dyskinesia, which is involuntarily, your body moves involuntarily.
So when you see people like Michael J. Fox or whoever with Parkinson's, and they're demonstrating that swaying,
Yeah,
that's more of a symptom of the medication
correct.
than a symptom of
Parkinson's.
of the Parkinson's.
Right. So at that time, whoever that person might be probably made a decision. In that situation, I'm better off swaying in a larger motion
Yep.
than tremoring in a smaller, faster, frequency.
Right. And so how severe were your symptoms, and how did that affect what you were able to do?
So at that time, again, it was mostly rigidity and balance issues. I didn't really develop my tremors, for another couple of years. But the worst part is the non-motor symptoms of Parkinson. Everybody looks at tremors. Everybody sees, the things that you can see.
Yeah.
But nobody thinks about the non-motor symptoms, stuff that's happening inside your body.
Like what?
Well, first thing is cognitive issues, where you experience, symptoms of dementia-like symptoms, and actually many people with Parkinson's develop early onset dementia as well. And then things like constipation. You don't think about these things, but constipation will affect you if you go. I mean, I know we're being broadcasted, so I'm going.
Hey, keep it.
Yeah, sometimes I go a full week without going, and that can affect training.
Prunes.
Prunes doesn't work. So I tried everything, but
we're working on a sponsorship with Sunsweet Prunes.
Oh, you are?
I'm working on that. Sunsweet. Come on, baby.
I love prunes. No, but seriously, it's the impact that you have on your daily life. If you can't, you can't predict when your body's going to do things when you should be able to.
Yep.
It impacts how you schedule your life around, daily activities and things like that.
Yep.
Other non-motor symptoms, of course, depression. I mean, yeah. I've had small bouts with that. I've been lucky.
Yeah.
But I've known others where it can go on for months and even years.
Uh-huh.
And then, excuse me. It's the mental aspect is probably the worst of everything, because you just don't know what's going to happen in the next, forget the next month, next year. You don't know what's going to happen in the next 24 hours. I'm here running with you now, but tomorrow morning I'll be stuck in bed for 30 minutes and just can't move.
So what do you do when that happens?
Oh, you take your medication and you wait it out, unfortunately. And I've learned to force my body to do things. Mm-hmm. So it's mind over matter. It's the will to positive thinking. I think that's played a huge role in my my daily activities and my, I don't want to call it healing, but in my own treatment for Parkinson's for me.
So, as these symptoms were they getting steadily worse? Were they kind of staying about the same?
So, in that first 8 years, it progressed to the point where I was unable to walk unassisted. So I walked with a cane.
You weren't able to walk
unassisted.
Unassisted.
Right. I was walking with a cane, and it started in 2008.
You were walking with a cane.
A cane, right?
You had 2 kids, right?
So at the time, no kids yet.
No kids. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. That's right.
So, walking with a cane, and because of my less active lifestyle, I didn't change my eating habits, unfortunately.
By the way, for people who want to know, Jimmy is a fantastic cook. He's a really, really good chef. He actually owned a restaurant, right?
Yeah. Our family had restaurants, actually quite a few of them, for quite a while there. But as my symptoms progressed, it came a time where we had to decide to sell or to try to go on. So we're going.
Yeah, we're just going to cut through here.
Okay.
We'll go up around the reservoir.
All right.
Sorry to interrupt the story here, but just to give people a little sense of where we are.
Yeah.
We are coming up to the reservoir of Central Park, which is just iconic. And it's a beautiful, beautiful reservoir. We'll actually stop and maybe take a selfie up here, and I'll pause it. But if you're ever in New York City and you are looking for the top 2 or 3 places to go, Central Park has got to be one of them, and the reservoir in particular is awesome. And just another note, when people are coming in from the New York City Marathon, kind of final down that home stretch, they go up into the Bronx, and then they turn around in the Bronx and they come down 5th Avenue. This is something, Jimmy, you've done a few times now.
Yep.
You kind of turn into the park right about here. And before you do that, actually, you pass Michael J. Fox's house. And Michael J. Fox is out cheering on all the Team Fox runners and all the runners.
Oh, yeah.
Every year.
Unwavering support from the man. His voice is obviously very powerful in the Parkinson's community.
Yeah, it really is. And just to paint the rest of the picture, there's cherry blossoms, there's ducks in the water, there's people out with their kids and their dogs. You really couldn't get a more picturesque, spectacular day. I'm going to pause this for just a second we'll take a picture here with this blossom tree. And I'll put this on the site.
Baby.
Oh, it's good. He's awesome. Yeah, Max is awesome.
Love seeing the pictures.
Yeah, Max is great. All right, we're back. We're up on the reservoir. You might hear kind of the crunch of gravel under our feet now. So Jimmy, where were we? You telling me about your restaurant?
Yeah. So I think I was right around 2009-ish. But I'll just pick up there at that time. I started gaining a lot of weight because I just wasn't active. Yeah. And being in the restaurant business at the time, you eat everything and you work long hours. So I was up to 240 pounds.
240 pounds.
240, yeah.
We'll get back to this. How heavy are you now?
I'm 160.
So that's 80 pounds heavier than you are now.
80 pounds, right.
Holy cow. 240 pounds walking with a cane.
Right, 240 pounds walking with a cane. And then, we just started, at that time, we're starting our family. My daughter, Karina, was born first. And then Mason came along in 2009. And then later that year, in 2009, we were walking down the stairs, and I was carrying Mason with my cane, and the two of us, we fell.
How old was Mason?
Mason was about 10 months old at the time. So the two of us went tumbling down the stairs. And, that was a moment it was my rock bottom moment for me, to be honest. I'm thinking, I'm too young not to do something about this because I've got my kids to watch out for. I've got Cheryl, my wife, I can't leave her with the entire burden of raising, two young kids and then have to take care of me as well. So I decided that I was going to be a better patient for myself and my family. And that was the start of my turnaround, I guess you can call it, my second chance.
Yeah.
I started doing things that I should have been doing from day one, doing research, looking for resources that other young onset Parkinson's patients are dealing with.
What was the first thing that you did? Do you remember?
Yeah. Well, again, Ask Jeeves and Yahoo. I think Google was brand new around the time, but anyways, at that time, the first thing I did was I went out there and I looked for new treatments because to be honest, I hadn't looked in a couple of years, right? So I wanted to get the latest information, and what I came across was that there was a ton of clinical trials, and those clinical trials are failing because there were no participants. So, and then the other thing that I noticed with a lot of these clinical trials was that it was funded by the Michael J. Fox Foundation. So, again, that sort of drew me more back into looking for resources with the foundation.
Can you maybe explain what clinical trials are and what it means?
Sure.
That there weren't any participants?
Yeah, so, researchers, drug companies, or institutions are constantly doing research on medical conditions. And before you can even take on human trials or even think about bringing a therapy to life, you gotta make sure that there are viable solutions or treatments.
Yep.
And they recruit volunteers to sometimes could be as simple as answering simple questions about your diagnosis.
Yep.
It could be something as simple as showing up and taking a physical examination, or it could be actually taking medication, experimental medication, and you have to give yourself to the study, of course, for feedback and data and things like that.
Yep.
Without participants, they're never going to be able to gather enough data to move the drug forward into human testing. Or once they're in human testing, without participants, they can't move it for treatment viability, data collection, which is usually trial 2. And then, so I'm going through, just to take one step back, is going through the life cycle of a clinical trial. So there's human safety, which is usually, clinical trial 1.
Yep.
And then clinical trial 2 is testing with the initial set of participants, just to gauge effectiveness. And then clinical trial 3 goes on if trial 2 shows good signs of progress or improvement.
Yep.
And then trial 3 is usually with a much larger set of samples. And then after that, the drug goes to market if everything is a go.
Right.
So as you can see, going from idea to FDA approved treatment, it can take 5, 10, 20 years even.
Right. And one of the big roadblocks to that, I think this is really worth talking about, is getting people to participate in clinical trials.
Correct.
Because the researchers might have an idea, they might put all the study in, but unless they can see if it's safe, unless they can see if there's initial progress and really then in those final clinical trials make sure and confirm everything, the drug never comes to market.
Correct. And
it's very hard to get people to participate in clinical trials.
Yes. And that's a very good point, Gene, and sorry to interrupt, but one of the statistics that came out from this weekend's activities with the Fox Foundation was that, and this is particular to Parkinson's, but it's very common among, the entire medical research world, I guess.
Yep.
It just doesn't matter what you're faced with, Parkinson's or not. Get out there, participate in any trial that you can, because here's this statistic that I heard yesterday. It just shocked me. Last year, one of the trials that they were tracking, the average time it takes to move from phase 1 to phase 2, or any phase 2 to 3, is about 3 to 5 years.
It's a long time.
It's a long time. Now, the problem with that is, just think about this, about 40% of that time, 40% of the 3 to 5 years is spent trying to get people to participate in these trials.
Right.
So, if people would participate, give up their bodies or just information. Again, it doesn't have to be giving up your bodies, right? It could be just answering simple questions. If we can shave a year off of that time, or a year and a half, because right now it takes on average 1 participant per month on average that they find in a clinical trial. So if you need to find 90 people, that's 90 months based on that average.
Right.
So can you imagine if they fill those 90 spots or 80 spots or whatever much faster?
Right.
It's a faster, you'll find whether or not a drug is effective or treatment is effective faster.
This is so important. I want to really hammer this home because this is one of the things that I'm most passionate about, especially with regards to running or walking and charity miles. We're doing this to raise money. There's all these programs with people running marathons to raise a few $1,000s, which is awesome. And Jimmy, you've raised a lot of money.
It's adding up.
And people from the charity miles community have raised a lot of money.
Yes.
But as we are giving of our bodies now to these causes, probably the most important thing that you can do, everybody out there listening to this, to give of your body to science and to make an impact, is to participate in clinical trials.
Yes.
And not just, you don't even have to participate. If you can just sign up for a clinical trial finder. The Fox Foundation has something called the Fox Trial Finder, and there are other clinical trial finders out there that are kind of like Match.com that will alert you if you are a candidate for a clinical trial. Just having you in the database accelerates the progression of research.
Yes.
Because the pharmaceutical companies, when they're deciding whether or not they can invest in the research, they'll say, oh, we would love to invest in the research, but it's going to be really hard to get people to participate in trials, and that makes it much more expensive and risky. But when an organization like the Fox Foundation would say, no, we've got thousands of people that are signed up in this database that are interested in participating, it makes it much less risky and much more likely for these pharmaceutical companies to invest in the research and to make those clinical trials possible in the first place. So if you're out there and you're wanting to know what you can do to make a difference, surely donating, raising money is great. I believe that maybe perhaps the most impactful thing you can do is to put yourself into a clinical trial database and let people know that you're interested and willing to participate in these clinical trials. And by the way, you don't have to have the disease.
Right.
They need control subjects,
Correct.
people without the disease, to be a part of it. It's just as important. And it doesn't have to be for Parkinson's, it could be for anything.
Right.
If I can make one call to action, and I wasn't thinking about this when we started our run, but if I can make one call to action out there, please sign up for clinical trials. I'm going to put some links in the show notes for people to check out. It's really, really important.
Definitely. Yep. And so, staying on the clinical trial path, and this weaves in with my story.
Yeah.
So, after taking the fall, doing research, and that's where I decided that I could help out, because I'm not smart enough to find a cure myself. So, I'm going to enable those who can by participating in clinical trials and raising money, as you mentioned. So, first thing I did was sign up for a whole bunch of them. I mean, every single one. Enter myself into, so back in 2009, the Fox Trial Finder didn't exist yet.
Yep. I think that started in like 2010.
Yes. But I would look at, individual biotech company or pharma company and find programs that they have that's related to Parkinson's, and I sign up for every single one of them. And I was lucky enough to participate in a stem cell procedure, experimental. It was a clinical trial 2 procedure at the time. And I truly believe if it wasn't for that trial, I wouldn't be here running next to you today.
Really? What was the trial?
So it was the idea was to take stem cells, program them to be dopamine producing brain cells in the lab, and that would be injected into my brain in hopes that it would latch on and start reproducing itself, and start producing dopamine. It was an open brain procedure. I was awake the whole time.
Wow.
And when I had my first procedure done, it was done in California, so my wife and I had to travel to LA and stayed in the hospital and the hotel, of course.
Were you nervous?
Oh, you know what? I was nervous because I was awake the whole time.
You're gonna cut open your head while you're awake.
Yeah, and I didn't know what was gonna happen, but I didn't feel a thing, which is great, except when they drilled a halo into my head.
By the way, this is not the typical clinical trial that I'm talking about signing up for.
It's not. But I think this is an important story because it gave me my second chance. Without this clinical trial, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah.
So I went in and again, for everybody listening, this was months and months of preparation and months and months of interviews and just checkups to make sure that I was a viable candidate for this procedure. But ultimately, they injected these stem cells into my brain, and because they're living cells already, and they started producing dopamine almost immediately. So I mentioned I was walking with a cane going in, and my wife and I walked out of our hotel room after recovery, and she noticed. She goes, "Hey, where's your cane?" And we were already outside, and I said, "It's back in the room." I didn't need it. For the first time in quite a few years, I didn't even think about it, and I just walked out without it because I didn't need it. And
this is how many days after the procedure?
This was less than 3 days after the procedure. Now, the trial is still an ongoing trial to this day. And due to confidentiality and stuff, certain things I can't say, but I will say this. Without the benefits from this trial, I wouldn't have started exercising.
Right.
And as we all know, in the Parkinson's world, or actually in any world, when you make your body healthier, you're going to make yourself better, right? No matter what disease you're facing. And because of this trial, where I ultimately had to do three open brain procedures. And the reason, and this information I can share, is that it worked, but it didn't last. Okay, so they're trying to figure out, what happened, why, and trying to make the procedure better. So, anyway, so now when I started exercising, I realized that the more I did, in terms of running or walking or whatever it might be at the time, the better I felt. We have on and off periods in Parkinson's. It's the time between when drugs are working and when the next dose is starting to work. It's an off period. And that's really when you're the most symptomatic. But running has really helped me manage that.
So when did you had this trial?
It's 2010.
2010, and you were able to walk without your cane.
Right.
What was the step from there to saying, you know what, I want to start getting fit? How did you realize that was going to be important, something that you wanted to do?
Well, I'm because I can walk much better now. I was enrolled by my movement disorder specialist to go ahead and start physical therapy, because I want to make sure that, because I'm walking better, I want to make sure that my old habits of dragging my leg and isn't creeping back into my walk, because that can cause hip and knee issues for later on. But then that's when I realized in physical therapy, the harder I worked with my physical therapist, the more I did, the better I felt after. So I started to do my own, walk around the block at home. Started with just, one lap around the block, and then went to 2 laps, and then I said, you know what, this feels good. Maybe I'll start jogging. And then I started just jogging, and then walking, and then next thing you know, I signed up for my first 5K in 2012. And really it was...
Which 5K was this?
This 5K was in Madison, Wisconsin, so it was about 2 hours away from home. But I wanted to find one that benefited Parkinson's research or local area Parkinson's, anything where it's benefiting a Parkinson's organization.
Yep. And
it was in Cottage Grove, Wisconsin, just outside of Madison. And I met just some incredible people. The family that organizes the run, which I'm still friends with to this day, are just incredible people. Bob is an incredible inspiration. He was there. He did the 5K with us, and it was my first race experience, and I never turned back ever since.
Wow. So your 5K, do you remember, was it challenging? Was there a part where you're like, I don't know if I can do this, or were you just having fun the whole time?
No, it was challenging for sure, because it was my first 5K, and I never really had done that distance, really.
Even before Parkinson's?
Even before Parkinson's. The most I think I've run was, I played sports in high school, and you do wind sprints, but I think at most was a mile that I ever ran at one time.
Were you signed up for Team Fox when you did this 5K?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I hadn't found Team Fox yet. So, and this really, I also want to give credit to my brother-in-law. He was doing a lot of running at the time, and he makes it look fun.
Yeah.
And
you make it look fun.
Well, now I know how it's done.
Yeah.
But that first one, I signed up because he made it look like so much fun, and I just wanted to experience it. And he joined me in that run as well. And he ran with me, which I'm still grateful for to this day, because he stuck with me the entire time. But when I crossed the finish line, it was like it's like a drug, I was hooked. And then I signed up for my first 10K a month later and completed that. And then I signed up for my first, that was in April of 2012, excuse me. And then by May, I did my first 10K. And then by June, I did my first 15K.
Wow.
And then in September, I did my first half marathon.
Wow. And what's happening to your body? Are you losing weight? Are you getting fit?
I was getting fit. I was losing a lot of weight. The weight was really melting off. And everybody listening, it doesn't just come off because you start running. You got to change your diet. You got to eat better.
Yeah.
But started to come off. I lost a lot of weight in that first year. And I got faster, I got more confident, and it just became a lot of fun just running. So went on my first half marathon. I'm very proud to say I did it in under 2 hours.
Your first half marathon you did under 2 hours?
Yeah, it was 1:58 and change.
Wow, that's legit, man. Out of the gate.
Out of the gate. And the competitive side in me kicked in as well, you know. Like, man, I can beat that. I can be better. And like I mentioned, like we talked about earlier, when I get into something, I give it my all.
Yeah.
So as soon as I crossed the finish line at the half marathon, I decided that I was going to sign up for a Chicago Marathon, which was just a month later.
Were you able to get into the race? Because it's sold out.
Yeah, it was sold out. I had no idea, right? Newbie in the race world. I mean, come on. Who knew a marathon could sell out? Who's crazy enough? Yeah. How many crazy people are there out there to want to run 26 miles? So it was sold out. I couldn't get in. That's when I found Team Fox, because they had a charity bib. And I believe to this day that bib was meant for me. With a month left in the race, I reached out to Team Fox, and Stephanie at the foundation said, "Oh yeah, you know, we just happen to have, you know, one here that you can take." And within a month, with a month left, I committed myself to raise $1,500 just so I can run. What I didn't know at the time was that I have found the support group that I've been looking for. I didn't know it yet until I showed up on race day and met all the different people running for the cause. We all think the same, and you know.
Was there anybody else running that had Parkinson's disease?
In that first year, I don't believe so, but I could be wrong. But I believe I was the only one at Chicago Marathon participating that year with PD. And I went out there and I did my best. It was an experience that I'll never forget. My competitive side kicked in, of course.
Yeah.
And
what do you remember most from that race?
The most was my wife. She's been there by my side the entire time, but I hadn't really realized how much support she's really given me until I saw her time after time after time along the course.
Yeah.
She didn't know how to get around the city very well because we live in the suburbs. And I mean, every few miles I see her with a sign, with a cowbell, screaming. And I'm like, how in the world are you getting around so quick? And she's got the kids, and it's incredible. And
she ran a marathon around the city.
You know what? Later we learned that she does an average of 6 to 7 miles.
Wow.
When she does cheering. Dragging kids around, dragging
By the way,
backpack.
Spectating is no joke.
No, it's not. And I did that one year, and I was like, you know what? I'd rather be running.
Yeah. Big thank you to all the spectators out there.
Yes. Volunteers, spectators, they make it all happen. So, and it just, I never stopped. I just went on and on and on and on.
How many? What did you finish that marathon in?
That was 4 hours and 26 minutes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was my first marathon.
By the way, I think that was around my first marathon time. I did the Chicago Marathon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we could have been sharing the course. We could have been running next to each other.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. That's amazing. So from there, you just kept going.
I just kept going. I don't stop because, again, of how much better it makes me feel. You know, I could be a mess, like immediately after, but about 15 minutes later, when my body catches up and all the adrenaline and dopamine and all these chemicals produced when running, then it starts catching up and I feel great.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm running, people can't really tell I have Parkinson's.
Yeah.
It's when I stop. Every race I stop, medical team comes up.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Let's move it along.
Yeah.
But, you know, 15, 20 minutes later, when everything else falls into balance, that feeling, I can't find anywhere else. at this point in my life. So,
And what? How many marathons have you done now?
13 to date. I've done 13 marathons.
13 marathons.
13 marathons since 2012.
How many half marathons?
88 half marathons.
Half marathons.
Yeah, there was.
I mean, you're at the point where you kind of just roll out of bed and do a half marathon.
Yeah, you know what? The last 3 summers, it's basically every weekend, sometimes twice a weekend.
Wow.
On half marathons, and then countless 5Ks and 10Ks. I've done one ultra marathon.
Right. Which ultra marathon did you do?
I was a Lakefront 5K, 50K Chicago. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing.
So,
and which has been your favorite or favorite marathon? Or like, which marathons are your favorite? Which races are your favorite?
So I have two different answers for that. Ultimate have fun marathon for me is definitely Disney Marathon Weekend, because the entire Team Fox family comes out. Team Fox family comes out, and we run around the theme parks.
Yeah.
Right? How much more fun can that be?
Right. So let's give people a little bit of color here, because Jimmy's sandbagging us a little bit. He doesn't. So Disney Marathon Weekend has it's more than a weekend. It's 4 days. Thursday is a 5K.
Right.
Saturday is a 10K. Saturday is a half marathon.
Right.
And Sunday is a full marathon.
Yeah.
Now, if you do all 4 of those races, it's called the Dopey Challenge. How many times have you done the Dopey Challenge?
So, Dopey Challenge was, they created that. The very first one was...
They created that just for you.
No, maybe the dopey part. But they started 4 years ago, and I've participated in every year since its inception.
Wow.
And I'm going back again this year. Well, actually in 2018, because I've already done 2017.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. That's the race where you want to go and have fun. I mean, for you everybody that's listening that's never done a Disney marathon, I crossed the finish line with a turkey leg in my hand. and we stopped and rode, Everest the ride.
Yeah.
At mile 13.
Mile 13 of the marathon, you ride a roller coaster, right?
Yeah, you get on a roller coaster. I mean, where else can you say you can do that?
Yeah.
But as far as my favorite marathon, I think it would have to be Chicago. Not only because it's hometown, but it's a flat course.
Yeah.
The competitor side of me says, if I'm gonna get my PRs and get my times,
yep.
That would be the course, and that is my PR course at this moment. Of course, always looking to improve on that. But
yeah.
I ran my fastest marathon at the Chicago Marathon with a time of 3 hours and 41 minutes.
Wow. That's 3 hours and 41 minutes.
Yeah.
Amazing. So we just completed about a 4-mile loop. There's a little more I would love to ask you. Sorry if we just walk up a little bit?
Yeah, let's do that.
Do you have time, like maybe 10 more minutes?
Of course.
Awesome. So, favorite marathon, Chicago. Have you done triathlons?
I have. I've done many different distances in triathlons. It's just been trying to work up to a half Ironman or a full Ironman.
Yep.
The problem is, it's not a problem. I'll figure it out. I have to take my meds
right
in the middle of a race or a run, and it's just not easy to do it in the water.
Right. How often do you have to take medication?
So when I'm doing endurance events, I have to take it as frequently as once every hour.
Wow. So
if I can't finish, a 2-mile swim or a 1-mile swim in under an hour, I can't attempt, or at this time at least, I can't attempt to do a half Ironman.
Right.
And even though I grew up on an island, I never learned how to swim. So I learned how to swim, just a few years ago, and I've done, a couple of triathlons. The swim will always scare me, but I'm working my way up. I think, I've got it in my sights to do an Ironman, and I'm gonna do it. It's just a matter of time.
I believe you. I have no doubt. I'll be there cheering you on.
Oh, thanks, man.
And you've also done some pretty insane bike riding, right?
Oh,
Are
yeah.
you still doing that Detroit to Chicago thing?
So the Detroit to Chicago, just so everybody know, I was planning a ride to 24 hours to ride from Detroit to Chicago. That's been put on hold simply because of the things that I took on this year.
Right.
And things that were opportunistic. I have to accept it and do it.
Yep.
And
well, let's say like, okay, let's tell people what that is, because this is unbelievable. You started. Well, let's tell people. So you started to do ninja training.
Yeah. my daughter is a an avid American Ninja Warriors fan. And she's
and how old is your daughter?
She's 9 now.
Your daughter Karina is 9. And your son Mason is how old?
Mason is 7 now.
And Karina loves American Ninja Warriors.
She does, and she started participating in kids, local obstacle course races for kids.
Yep.
When she was 7. And
she's really good.
She's really good. She's a natural at it. She competes now at the 12-year-old level. And she's won a couple of local competitions. She qualified to try to attempt to compete at the national level just this past summer.
She's qualified?
So we went to a tournament, I guess you can call it a tournament, or a meet, a competition, where if she finished in the top in the top 3, she would have gone to nationals.
Wow.
in that age group.
Wow.
Unfortunately, she hurt her Achilles during warm-ups at that competition, so she had the opportunity to run the course, but not the complete course, because there are things that she can't do with injured Achilles. But I told her, you've got 3 more years to dominate in this in this age group. So we
got to put some videos up of Karina.
Oh, definitely.
On the show notes, because she's awesome.
Yeah, she's a crazy fan, and every year she's like, "Daddy, why don't you do it? Can you get on the show?" And the first time she asked, it was, "Oh, I'm sorry, because Daddy has Parkinson's." Second time she did.
So she said to you, "Dad, can you go on American Ninja Warrior?"
She did, yeah.
And have you been training American Ninja style?
No.
You just.
No, it's just my running and my everyday training, lifting, things like that. Yep. And then, so year after year she asked me. The first time it was, no, I can't, I have Parkinson's. The second time was, I'm in better, every year I get in better shape. Second time it was, no, I can't, I don't have the grip strength. Or, no, I can't, I don't have the upper body strength. It's crazy. You see these people doing these things.
Yeah.
And, but then last year, there was Allison Topperwine was on the show, and
who's Allison Topperwine?
Allison,
don't know.
She is a fellow person with Parkinson's, with young onset Parkinson's. She's in her late 30s, and she competed on the show. She's good friends with Sam Sand, who's one of the elite ninjas on the show, and he trained her, and she got on the show, and just showed her determination and her unwillingness to quit.
Yeah, it's pretty epic, her run through the course, and you can just see her determination.
Yeah,
link up for people to see that.
Yeah, it's just incredible. And Karina saw that, and she immediately, even before Allison did her run, when her story was running during the show, Karina turned to me and said, "Dad, she has Parkinson's. What's your excuse?"
Well, hold on a second. So most people probably know what American Ninja Warrior is, but what is American Ninja Warrior?
It's a obstacle course competition, and it's shown insane. On it's crazy. It's shown on NBC, and it will premiere in June 12th this year. And what it is just it's I don't know if insane is the right word, because it's really beyond that. People exerting just incredible strength and balance to get through these obstacles. You're basically, if you can't hang on to your own body weight for at least, I don't know. I know all these guys can do 4.5, 5 minutes of dead hanging. Just hanging there. That's the type of strength that it takes, for your hands to hold up your own body weight for that amount of time, and then still moving across from one point to the next to get to the next stage, so to speak.
I mean, there's things like ring hangs and like chin up jumps and
they don't even do that anymore because they say that's too easy.
Oh God.
So there's just an example of some of the things that they did last year. Just imagine a swinging pendulum with an inch of ledge on each side, and you have to jump from a trampoline. You got to jump on a trampoline and time your jumps, because there's a swinging pendulum, time your jump, and then grab on to this 1-inch ledge
with 1 inch with your fingers.
With your fingers, and swing onto this pendulum and hold on to it, and then swing on this pendulum, and then swing to the next jump. You got to do that 3 times before you clear that stage. So that's just one example.
It's crazy. So Allison Topperwine was on the show. Your daughter's like, "Yo, Pops."
Yeah, that's basically.
She can do it. What's your excuse?
Right. So then I decided. I said, you know what? All my excuses. I've become that person I said I wouldn't become. Right. There's no excuses. I got to go out there and give it my all. And I said, you know what? I'm going to try. Let's do it. I'm going to try. So we had to, put together an audition video. We had to, start training, of course. And even before you can do the video, you got to make sure you're in shape. So I started training, obstacle course training with her.
When did you start training with her?
Oh, geez. This was probably...
A little father-daughter time.
A little father-daughter time. Started in, I would say...
It's like a regular tea party.
Yeah, exactly. Minus the dresses. But we started in January of 2017.
So, like, just a few months ago. 4 months ago.
4 months ago. And then, we had to get our submissions in. And then I hadn't heard from them. I thought... they've done the story, and maybe they're not interested, and I was okay with it, right? I told Karina that, hey, Daddy tried, but then it was actually just over a month ago they called, and I said, hey, Jimmy, we got an opportunity for you to compete
on the
show. So, and I've been doing a lot of obstacle course training, but more Spartan style, running obstacle courses, which. Those obstacles are great, but it's nothing like what I have to endure.
Right.
So a month ago, I had to really switch up my training to more of the straight obstacle course, ninja style training.
Uh-huh.
And this past Monday, I competed in Kansas City.
So you were on the show in Kansas City on Monday.
On Monday.
6 days ago.
6 days ago, I was on the show. I competed, and it was probably the most terrifying experience, yet the most exciting experience I've had. In my life.
Really? So I know you can't tell me if you completed the course or not. Maybe you can give me a wing. Because the show's going to be on in 2 months, right?
Yeah, the show will be on, the show's premiere is June 12th.
Okay.
The episode I'm on is going to be the Kansas City qualifier, which will likely be early July.
Okay.
So what I can say is that it will be a good show.
Yeah?
It will be a good show. That's what I can say. I can't say anything beyond that. Akbar, who's one of the hosts of the show, his dad has Parkinson's.
Oh, really?
And he took the time to really just come out and wish me luck. And that was really appreciated, and that calmed my nerves just before I had to go.
Uh-huh.
And then he gave a shout out to a day after my attempt. He gave a shout out to the man the night before that ran with Parkinson's on the course.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming he was talking about me. But
there's no one else with Parkinson's.
Yeah, I mean, Allison went back again this year.
Oh, really?
But she was at a different city.
Oh, wow.
So
we have to have a showdown between you and Allison.
You know what? It's not a competition between the two of us.
I know.
But I wish her the best, and I don't know how she did. So I'm hoping she crushed it. But
So what was it like to be on the show? What was it like to do the course? I don't know if being on the show adds like a level of excitement to it, I'm sure, but what was it like for you to compete at this level?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind is, I don't like to do these things unless I feel like I belong.
Uh-huh.
I mean, yeah, I have Parkinson's, but I don't want to use that as an excuse. Mm-hmm. If I can't do something, that wouldn't be teaching my kids right. And then also my
so you don't
my
want
message.
to just be on the show just because you have Parkinson's.
Correct. I don't. I sometimes I joke and say, hey, you know what? I'm the charity case, right? But I don't truly believe that.
Right.
So if I want to make sure I get out there and I make a good running. no matter what.
Right.
I was going to give it my all. I was going to earn the respects of my fellow ninjas. Just like when I run, I want to earn the respects of my fellow runners. And I think I did that. So, getting up there, watching these other people go on the course and do their thing, I felt intimidated because, they're veterans. They've done this, and this is me with just a few months of training, trying to do this stuff. But I found out that I am strong enough, and that I did have what it takes, But now with experience this year, if I get the chance to go back again, it's just my only goal is to do better, do better and better.
Amazing. Well, can't tell you, Jimmy, how many people you have touched with your story, people in the Team Fox community who you're setting an example for, people both with Parkinson's and without, about how to face life's challenges, what life throws at you, and how to enjoy life, how to be a good father and a good husband, how to support other people in the Parkinson's community and just generally, how to have a lot of fun.
That's all. That's what it's about, man.
And I look up to you so much.
Thank you.
You've really impacted my life in so many ways, and I just want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you for taking the time to run with me today, and to share your story with everyone else out there in the Charity Miles community who may be listening right now, and hopefully walking or running along with us. Hopefully doing some charity miles for the Michael J. Fox Foundation.
Yeah.
And there's kind of one final thought or call to action or anything that you'd like to share with the rest of the people. What would that be right now?
Everybody out there faces some kind of adversity. It doesn't matter what it is. Maybe you got fired last week, or maybe you twisted your ankle and you're an elite athlete, or you're facing Parkinson's or cancer or whatever it is. Everybody has a story. I mean, we're looking out at thousands of women running the women's half marathon here in Central Park today.
Yeah.
I am sure every single one of them has a story of why they're out here doing it. Take the time to listen. It's not always about you. People inspire each other to do better things. Join organizations, raise money for your cause, because together you're not going to. It's harder to do things by yourself, but as a group, collective effort, you'll get to that finish line faster. So it's scary sometimes, but taking that first step is probably the hardest thing to do. And once you do, everything will come rushing out. So go out there and just do your thing.
Speaking of finish lines, we are actually right now at where the finish line of the New York City Marathon would be. Tavern on the Green in Central Park.
Yep.
We're maybe facing the direction that you're not accustomed to seeing it. We're facing the opposite direction where you come up Central Park Drive here. And the women's half marathon is going right through, passing in the other direction. It's been a beautiful day. Jimmy, thank you so much for running with me and for sharing the story with all of us. The unshakable Jimmy Choi, everybody.
Thank you, Gene, and everything that you do, of course, and also Charity Miles. Thank you for bringing that to this world, because it's everything. Even little thing as a training run, you're bringing awareness and you're bringing funds to research.
Thank you.
So thank you.
And every mile matters.
Every mile matters.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Gene.
Hi, everybody. It's Gene again. Thanks for tuning in and walking or running with me and Jimmy. We hope you are as inspired by him as we are. If so, subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. We appreciate your encouragement and feedback. If you've got any questions for us, ask them in the reviews and we'll strive to answer them in future episodes. Tell your friends about the podcast and about Charity Miles so we can all make a bigger impact together. And of course, check out our next episode where I run along the East River in New York City with United States Congresswoman Kyrsten Sinema. Thanks again, everybody. Every mile matters.